Item is invocation, and what we normally do is have a moment of silent prayer and remember those that may be sick or have other problems in their family, and also remember the citizens of Ukraine, which we'll hear a little bit more about later on. But anyway, let's take a moment, bow our heads, and have a moment of silent prayer. Okay, in accordance with the Code of Ethics adopted by the Board, all town commissioners have a duty to obey all applicable laws regarding official actions, to uphold the integrity and independence of the office, to avoid impropriety in the exercise of official duties, to faithfully perform the duties of the office, and to conduct the affairs of the governing board in an open and public manner. Is there any item on the agenda, the outcome of which will have a direct, substantial, and readily identifiable financial impact for any board member? Also, does any board member have a financial interest in any public contract coming before this board today? There being none, all board members have a duty and obligation to vote. And the first item will be approval of the agenda as presented. Do we have a motion to approve?
Mayor Vihan, I want to amend the consent agenda. Do I do that now or then?
We can do it now if you want to.
I move that items 2 and 3 be pulled and placed in new business because they're going to require some discussion and edit.
Okay, any other changes to the agenda? Okay, with the removal of items 2 and 3, do we have a motion to approve the rest of the consent agenda? Or approval of the agenda, excuse me.
So move.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. If you look at it, the first item, approval of the March 8, 2022 work session minutes, March 10, 2022 emergency meeting minutes, and March 15, 2022 regular meeting minutes, and edited minutes from April 20, 2021, and September 29, 21, and October 7, 21. Item number, you said the 2 and 3 is what you wanted.
Yes, sir.
Item number 4, resolution committing support for opportunity fund investment that promotes equitable growth, developments without displacement, and healthy communities of opportunities in Woodfin's opportunity zones. Item number 5, resolution to approve installment financing for sanitation trucks. Item number 6, Town of Woodfin policy related to the commercial use of park property. Have any questions about any of those items?
Yeah, well, Jim, why do you want to remove 2 and 3?
My understanding is, Commissioner, that if you're going to have robust discussion or want to make any edits, that you should pull them out and address them in a different way. Am I correct? Okay.
Okay, hearing no other questions about the consent agenda, do we have a motion to approve items 1, 4, 5, and 6?
So moved.
Second?
Aye. Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, going back to, you want to do 2 and 3 now, or you want to move them on down the agenda a little bit?
It's your call, sir.
Okay, let's do public comment and then we'll move into that.
Okay.
This time we'll have public comment where the public is invited to attend this meeting in person or view this meeting on Facebook Live. All documents related to agenda items not published on the website may be viewed in advance of the meetings in person at Town Hall. Do we have anyone like to speak tonight before the Board of Commissioners? Any public comment? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 2, approval of 2021 closed session meeting minutes. Any comment?
Yes, sir. In the packet that we received, item J is in Jim, had been edited and changed from the original minutes, and I spoke to Shannon and Ryan about it. They have corrected them, and they now almost identically match that meeting from April 2021. And that's what I wanted to make certain of, because the way they came in the packet, they had been, well, some cut and paste didn't work. And then I also, at the appropriate time, want to move that the closed session minutes referred to in J be unsealed and released.
So which ones be
J.
unsealed?
J, on page 7. From April 2021, yes, ma'am.
So you're talking, at this point, are you talking all of them with the exception of these last two that discuss another topic? Or are you only talking about?
I am only, in terms of unsealing and releasing, I'm only concerned about J. If the entire April 20 can be unsealed and released, I'm fine with that. Maybe that's the better way to do it. Keep them all together. Hazel, you look,
So item J has been added to the regular meeting minutes, so they're now posted, will be posted publicly.
so they're not in the consent agenda anymore.
You just approved them
Yeah.
as part of the consent agenda, the edited version, so this
And we
now.
pulled them out and put them in new business.
The closed session minutes, not
Correct.
the regular.
Not the
session
open,
minutes.
yeah.
So the.
So they're now
conversation-
part of the regular meeting instead of a closed session meeting.
Yes. Right.
Oh, and they'll automatically be released.
Yeah.
Right, right.
I thank you very much. Thank you for pointing that out.
Okay, do we need a motion on item number 2 before we move on? Or did we settle it, Jim? I don't know, I got confused.
It sounds like there's no need for a motion because in the regular course, because they're regular meeting minutes, they're going to be released in the normal order of business.
Yeah, so now you're voting to approve all those minutes now.
Right,
Right.
As revised by you today. Okay.
Yes.
I'll move that.
I second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, item number 3.
Mayor, my only concern about number 3 was, and I know it was a non-discrimination template that probably came from the feds, but Treasury Department, but to bring us up to date and keep everything consistent, I asked that we include language adding to the non-discrimination policy sexual orientation.
Okay, so I sent an email out this afternoon, after reviewing several comments from the board. It was a template from actually the North Carolina School of Government. Their attorneys provided several templates that are compliant with the ARPA grant uniform guidance. This specific, non-discrimination policy is regarding all the civil rights laws, and I did use their template and simply filled in Withem's information, didn't change another word, so that, not being an attorney, it would be compliant with the grant and the federal guidelines around civil rights laws. I added language, and you should have in your packet tonight in red,
It was laying in front of you on your sheet.
so we've added this language.
Perfect. That wasn't here for me.
there were 4 different places
That
in the,
works.
there were 4 different places in the policy that referenced the protected classes, and I added the wording, including sexual orientation and gender identity, so that, we were clear that the town was more inclusive than.
And for that, I thank you, and I have no issue. I did not
Yeah.
have this in my packet.
Yeah, so what we are asking for the board to adopt tonight is the amended version that you received via email this afternoon and that is in your packet tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry.
Okay, that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Jim?
Thank you.
Mayor, I got a question. Before we get past 2 again, I've been reading the closed session general statute 143-3/1811, and I'd like for Joe, town attorney, to tell me At what point is anything that happens in closed session not public record?
At what point is it? It's when you choose not to have it as a public record. You can, items that are discussed, that can be discussed in closed session are defined in there.
But the
You
way
can
it-
see- You can see the
now-
list of items that you can keep private.
I'm no lawyer, that's why I'm asking you. The way I read this, anything discussed in closed session has to be brought to open session, especially if a vote is
Well,
required.
yeah, you can't take a vote in closed session. You
Right.
can take the vote in open session. So sometimes you can discuss items, let's just take the purchase of a piece of property. for
Right,
example.
right.
You can discuss that in closed session, the details with regard to it. However, in order to purchase a piece of property, you have to do that in open session,
Right, right.
as an example.
Now, the only thing I have is like personnel issues.
Yes,
Apparently, they have to be open too.
well, no,
No,
no, if you're talking about personnel matters, those are confidential.
okay. I just kind of read that different.
Okay.
But I'm no lawyer, that's why I'm
Yeah,
asking
no,
you.
personnel matters are
Confidential.
important to be kept confidential
Okay, thank you.
for the privacy of the, personnel we discuss.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, any more questions on item number 3? Have a motion to approve item number 3.
I'd like to move that we do, sir.
Second?
Second?
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to new business. First item, ABC Board Monthly Report.
So, I just am here to report on our sales for the month. We were 1.2% behind where we were at this time last year, which makes us very happy. To get that close to where we were in pandemic time is quite an achievement. And if I have 2 graphs that I will present to you all that will show our cumulative sales over the last 4 years, and then the monthly sales as well. And you'll see that we are getting closer to where we thought we would be. We're still waiting on the Twisted Laurel to open. We haven't seen a lot of movement on the Twisted Laurel's new location up there, but we're anticipating that that will boost our business greatly, especially our mixed beverage sales. But since we haven't seen any movement there, we don't really have any idea of when the projected date would be for that.
Where is that location? I'm not familiar with that.
It's gonna be where there was it was like a park, play station
Oh,
up there
okay.
on that.
Yeah.
So they're gonna open a brewery there and have a whole family area. They've got extensive plans for it. So we anticipate that will be, we don't have a lot of mixed beverage sales where we are. The one restaurant up at Reynolds Mountain had closed, the Coupa La Cabra, the Latin music that was there, I mean, Latin restaurant that was there, I can never say. And then there is, yes, thank you. But there is there's one.
The Village
Porch is up there, and as well as Moe's, and we do get mixed beverage sales for those 2 locations, but that's really it for us. So that limits us greatly in that particular area of our sales. So we're hoping, as Woodfin grows and there's other projects in the works, that will help give us some healthy growth as well. But we finished the completion of our new renovation, which doubled the size of our stockroom. Unfortunately, because the distribution, which was done by the state itself, has now been outsourced, and the company that the distribution was outsourced to has not proven to be that proficient, and things are not getting, like, we get shorted every month on our orders. And so we're going to continue to order more than what we need, and we'll hope that we can begin to fill up the warehouse, but right now it's not really being utilized the way we had intended it to be used. But hopefully, as the distribution chain, supply chain issues get worked out, that also will allow us to increase our inventory. So,
So is the 25,000 increase in purchase to fill up that I was looking at on here, that's to fill up the warehouse area?
Yes.
Okay.
We're hoping, yeah, I mean, that was the intent all along. I mean, the way that we can make money is to buy things when they're on sale and stock them in our warehouse, and then when they go off sale, we've bought them at the sale price, but now they are no longer on sale to the consumer. And so if you can buy large in that, that's, because so much of our business is controlled, like the prices are set, everything's set, you know, the prices, the taxes, it's all set by the state. And so there's not that much room or ways that we can make profit or turn profits, but by buying inventory when they're on sale and holding it is one way we can increase profits. So, I'll hand these to you guys. I think you should have gotten the P and L from our finance officer. It should have been sent to you.
Okay.
Got it, right? I'll give these to you.
That was on your.
Yeah, we got it.
Right.
Okay. I'll pass these up to you if they want. I've got an extra copy. So you guys can, these are, we have our newest, oh, I have one more thing I have to say. We have our newest board member is really into charts and Excel spreadsheets, which has been incredibly helpful. So he loves making these colored charts, and he shares them every month, and we're all kind of like anxiously waiting them. But the one question or ask I do have of our board is I will be rotating off in June, and we will have a new board member coming on July, beginning of our fiscal year. And so we have, the application for the ABC board membership is on the Town of Woodfin website. It's been there for several months. We've not received any applications for the position. You do have to be a Woodfin resident or resident of Woodfin, but we are really seeking a new board member. So if any of you all know anyone who might be interested that you think would be great, we'd love to have an attorney or an accountant on our board. So if you know anyone in the area that you think might be interested, it's, you know, one meeting a month. Our meeting yesterday was quite long, it was 2.5 hours, but generally they're not that long. And, you know, then you do things like you go by and review the checks and look at the bank statements and that sort of thing. But it's not incredibly time-consuming commitment, but it would be really helpful if we could have someone step up. Right now, we have, our other two board members are from Sunny Ridge, and so we would like to diversify too and make sure that we have people from different parts of Woodfin on our board. So that would be helpful too if we can kind of diversify. And I was the first female on the board, and so it would also be nice to have another woman join the board. But, so if you all have any suggestions, ideas, thoughts, please direct them to our website where they can find more information as well as the application.
Just a regular board member?
Uh-huh, yeah. So the way our board rotates, so I've been the board chair, the board positions are for 3-year terms, and you come onto the board and you're just a regular board member for the first 2 years, and then your 3rd year, you are the chair.
Okay.
So that's the way it's structured.
I'll think it's posted on our webpage to let them know
And if you have any questions, we can email to make
Yeah.
sure everything's clear.
that. That works.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, and this, I will tell you, Mr. McAllister, we did bring up the issue of masks. You brought it up when I was here last month, and it was discussed at length at our next meeting. And I think if the instance were to arise again, that the board would take a more active role in making sure that our employees were in compliance with local regulation.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Okay, moving on to the next item, the paving contract award, authorization to proceed. Shannon?
Good evening, Commissioners. So this next item on your agenda is a request to move forward with the award and authorization to enter into a contract for the paving contract that we had posted some months ago. So just as a reminder, these are the steps that we went through and the different dates associated with them. And I'll bring your attention to the bottom, the highlighted parts. On March 17th, we posted the RFP. Well, we posted it prior to that, and we received the bids. The deadline was around March 17th. We had an insufficient response. We only had 2 bids, so the laws require that we repost. That ended on April 5th, and that second round of bids was a little bit more fruitful. We had 3. And now we're in the phase of reviewing those bids and making a recommendation. The three bids that we received were from these companies, Bryant's Land and Development Industries, Inc., French Broad Paving, Inc., and APAC Atlantic, Inc. The low bid was French Broad Paving. They are a regional or local business that has a track record in the area. They do have all of the proper insurance and certification to perform the work. So that is the recommendation, is to authorize the town manager to enter into a contract with French Broad Paving, Inc., based on the bid specifications that were provided. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Luke, who's also been very involved in this project, is here as well to answer any questions. We're very happy that this bid came in under our budgeted amount, and when you apply the contingency, we're pretty much dead on, so.
Any questions from the board? I've got one question. When are they gonna start?
That is a good question. Really soon. They're very excited, and they are going to, I think, probably within the next few weeks, try to get started. And they think that once they start, they can finish in, what did we say, 5 months?
They said they could start first week of May, and then 5 months.
Okay, well, you see the recommendation to authorize the town manager to enter into a contract with French Broad Paving. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, have at it. Next item, Woodfin Elementary School playground support. We'll hear the recommendation.
In your packet, there is a budget amendment and a staff report relating to this amendment for your consideration. At our budget workshop earlier this month, the board requested that we do a budget amendment this year to support Woodfin Elementary's playground initiative, and that budget amendment, the amount of $25,000, is before you tonight. April is here. She's the principal of Woodfin Elementary, and would be happy to entertain any questions you might have about the project or the timeline, and we're very grateful to her for all the good work she does at Woodfin Elementary.
I make one note. She's now Dr. Wright, and I think for Woodfin Elementary to have a PhD as the principal is awesome. We're happy to have you here. So any questions about the
Yes.
process?
I wonder if we should talk to the school board or Clark White with maintenance to see, like, I don't know how to put it, to make sure we're doing the right thing. They'll accept whatever the town comes up with, or,
I spoke with the finance director for the school board
Okay.
today to make sure I was clear on their required process. We had entertained the possibility of donating to the 5K Foundation, who's also supporting the event and all that, but there are restrictions under state statute about donating public funds to a private foundation, and my preferred method of funding the project would be to write a check directly to the schools. So I called her today to discuss that process and how it worked, and she said we could make that donation, they would earmark it, reserve those funds on their balance sheet specifically for this project, and then when April's group was ready to draw down the funds for development or construction of the project, they would be available for only that use. I also spoke to the Commissioner McAllister before the meeting, and the donor that is matching the funds will provide the match, even if we donate directly to the schools.
Okay.
So,
I mean, I love the idea. I just want to make sure
Oh,
the
and
school
that's-
board.
I didn't have answers, so that's why we asked
Right.
Dr. Wright to come tonight.
I'm happy to respond.
Go for it.
Is it okay, whatever?
come over here so it picks up for the.
Just pretend we're your classroom.
watching from here.
Thank you for your time. So I have been working directly with Tim Fearley. Tim Fearley is the facilities
Facilities,
director with
right.
Buncombe County School System. He's been out several times. Currently, they are in the process of getting a geotechnical course survey so that a design can be planned for I'm reading directly from his email. Forgive me because this is not my lane. But the geotechnical cores for the structural engineer design footings and the retaining wall that's necessary for the ADA access down to the lower playground. So that's really the bulk of the cost of our playground of this project. So they are in the process of doing that. When I say they, it's the Buncombe County Schools Facilities Department.
That's good.
And we will pay for that through our fundraising. So there's not a fund through the Buncombe County Schools finances to fund this survey. The play equipment that has been proposed has been reviewed by Buncombe County staff, particularly Mike Kowalik. He's our safety director. And we are going with Play Nation, which is local. It's Dave Moyer, I think is his last name. And Tim Fearley has said that I can share with you that everything that I have presented to our school system has been approved through that vendor and through the vendor's previous work with other campuses, and that he's a certified installer. So that's what I know right now, and I'm happy to answer anything else.
The question that I would have is, will the facilities department, will they maintain the playground for the school after construction? Who will be,
Yeah, so the school, typically it's the school and the school PTO that maintains the playgrounds. I can tell you my experience, this is my 7th year as principal there. Mike Kowalik has brought out mulch for our primary playground one time. So the funds that they have are very limited for maintaining playgrounds. In fact, when we were talking with Dave with Play Nation, Mike Kowalik and I were talking about what is the upkeep going to be with this mulch. And so we had decided, particularly since it has to be ADA accessibility, that we would go with the, I'll try to find the exact, with the rubber mulch.
Right.
So it's a higher price tag, but it's a longer
longer
life.
Right.
And so that wouldn't put such a burden on the school or the PTO or the community, really, right? So, yeah.
Dr. Wright,
Anything else?
let's say everything went green, green, green. What's the soonest, and I won't hold you to it, but what's the soonest that playground could be open for your kids to play on it?
You know, that is out of my, I couldn't even project that. My hope is that we start with this process by fall. What's been holding us up really is funding. There's just no funding.
Let's say we get the funding by September 1.
September 1, let's start September 2. And let's phase. In my mind, and I'm not a contractor, and I'm not, again, that's not my lane, but in my mind, I'm thinking of 3 phases. I'm thinking the first phase is getting that ADA, that retaining wall and that ramp in. And then the second phase is demolition. There's one piece of equipment for our children down there to play on right now. It's a blue piece of monkey bar, something that continuously needs my head custodian to go out there and tighten it. So that needs to be, the demolition needs to occur, and then the installation. So in my mind, that's 3 phases.
And if anybody's interested, we have the steering committee, we have a set of PowerPoint slides as well as a PDF. It's 4 pages that has photographs and artist rendering. If anybody would like to have that, I'm happy to send it to you.
Are there any problem getting equipment?
Not that Dave has said, he's very confident in
Good.
what we have asked for, what we have worked together for. He's very confident
Good,
that he can
good,
get that
good.
equipment in.
I'm all for it.
You said you wanted to make the motion.
I make a motion that we, I guess donate, is that the right word, the 25,000 with the matching funds?
Yes,
from-
approve the budget
or
resolution.
budget resolution for the playground at Woodfin Elementary.
We have a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second.
Yeah.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're ready for you now.
Thank you for coming.
Okay, next item, resolution to show town support for Ukraine.
Thank you, Mayor. This next item, as the mayor's indicated, is a resolution in support of the Ukraine, specifically supporting the people and government of Ukraine. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Commissioner McAllister to read the resolution.
Mr. Mayor and my companion commissioners, I think we all share the frustration and the heartbreak of watching any network news and showing the destruction and the horrible things happening in Ukraine. And while we're limited in what we can do about it, we darn sure don't have to remain silent. So that's why I propose the following resolution. Whereas the free and independent country of Ukraine is being unjustly and ruthlessly invaded by the Russian military, and whereas the citizens of Ukraine are showing remarkable courage in the face of overwhelming lethal force, and whereas freedom-loving people and governments worldwide are united in support of the Ukrainian people, and whereas all levels of government in free countries have the opportunity to express their support for the courageous people of Ukraine. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners of Woodfin hereby express their support for the people and the government of Ukraine.
Okay, you've heard the proposed resolution. Have a motion to accept it.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Next item, Parks and Greenways Advisory Committee recommendation on pickleball.
All right, I'll tackle this one too. So on April 13th, 2022, so just last week at the last Parks and Greenway Advisory Committee meeting, the committee voted to recommend to the Woodfin Board of Commissioners that the town oversee the initiation of a pilot program that would include the installation of some temporary pickleball courts at two of the town's facilities, the Geneva Maney Park and the Woodfin Community Center. Just a little detail about this proposal. The new courts would be temporary and they would be striped using some heavy-duty tape. A group of volunteers, including a member of the committee, would coordinate with the town on the location, layout, and management of the courts. The volunteers would help to develop a communication plan and a survey to be posted online, and we would use that survey to gauge how much the courts are used and some other valuable information about, could more be, what is needed, in order for these facilities to be more permanent. And then the costs are small. I think I had put in your staff report that we're thinking somewhere in the neighborhood of $30, per court, just for the tape. It's a very low-cost initiative. And there may be some other small costs incurred by the town, minor maintenance things at the facilities that might take a little bit of investment. But we expect those to be small and that the cost could easily be absorbed into the operating costs for the facilities. Our plan would be to report back to the Board of Commissioners after we have those survey results in about 12 months, and just kind of, report back and let you know how successful the program was. And then at that time, we can, if it was successful, we could entertain the idea of, permanent facilities at some appropriate location. But we thought best to start with this pilot program initially, just to see how successful it could be. I mean, pickleball is sort of taking the nation by storm, so we anticipate that there could be some interest.
I'm wondering, as a pickleball player, where are we talking about as far as where would these be placed? Is this like on courts or?
It would be on a paved surface. So I think, some consideration was possibly the underutilized basketball courts at the community center, and then maybe some, not heavily used portions of parking areas.
Because anything that's gonna be not level.
Yes,
We
it would
won't
be
have people, in a parking lot, that concerns me, because with a wiffle ball type ball, it's gonna veer off every angle unless it's a solid surface, and I would be concerned that there would not be the interest in playing on a surface like that. On a basketball court, absolutely, something that's not just, asphalt.
Sure.
So I wasn't sure exactly where we were talking about.
Yeah, and we're still exploring that. So we'll work with the committee members. We have some pickleball enthusiasts that we would, enlist to kind of help us identify the optimal location. And when you're done playing pickleball, I hope you'll use the QR code and fill out the survey
Right.
and let us know what works and what doesn't work, so.
That's awesome.
We don't really need action by the board, but this is something we wanted to share with you because it did come from our Parks and Greenways Advisory Committee. And it's something that we expect returning in 12 months with an update, so we just wanted to go ahead and put it on new business. So, unless there aren't any concerns, we'll go ahead and let the staff get this started.
I would echo Commissioner Urban's, not because I play pickleball, but just being a litigation attorney, if it's not a perfectly flat surface,
Yeah.
regardless of what happens with the wiffle ball, if someone falls and says, I expected it to be smooth as a pickleball court,
Yeah.
we just know what will flow from that, so.
All right, thank you. We'll certainly,
Knees already.
we'll certainly do our best to find the most level surfaces. Appreciate that. All right.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to departmental and managers' reports. First item, police report.
All right, good evening. I'm going to start with our totals that you have in front of you. As you can see, a lot of our activities, for the most part, are down. Our calls for service, 429, as opposed to 759 this time last year. One of the big things that we're dealing with right now is, obviously we have some staffing issues. We're down a few positions, and also folks out sick. So we're kind of that crunch again where we're on minimal staffing. Minimal staffing means that we have less self-initiated activity. However, we should see those numbers going up. One of the things that had traditionally driven those numbers are things like residential security checks, which I've talked about before, but we have had very few of those over the last few months, and now we have more of those rolling in, and so we expect those numbers to go up and show the calls for service to increase. Looking at some of the other numbers, our citations down. We did just wrap up a Governor's Highway Safety Program campaign this last week, but that would not show in these numbers. It was speed a little, lose a lot. I know our officers were out on that and did make some charges out of that. In fact, some that showed up on Facebook. It's always nice when you wake up on a Saturday morning and you check your Facebook and you found your officers made a DWI arrest and a drug possession arrest of that caliber from a license check station. So, that was one of the activities they were doing as part of this campaign, and it netted that result. So extremely proud of them for that. Crashes were also down, and we'll knock on wood that they trend that way. From this time last year, 11 crash reports for March of 2022 as opposed to 16 in 2021. And then our investigations, they took on 13 new cases. Out of those, 8 are currently open, which include 5 breaking and entering cases, 1 counterfeit, 1 miscellaneous larceny, which can be any type of larceny that's not where someone broke into something to steal it. Like if someone breaks into your car and steals something, we count that as a breaking and entering or larceny from a vehicle. But if you leave your lawnmower outside and somebody steals it, then that's just a larceny. So to make that difference there for you. And then investigators are still working a sexual assault case that they've actually been on for several weeks now and will continue for some time. This is a pretty complex case. And then they closed out 8 cases last month as opposed to 5 last year. In other news, since Dr. Wright's here, and I know Commissioner McAllister has said it many times, but we are ramping up for the Woodfin 5K. We are 10 days away. The 30th, so we're getting there. So if you've not signed up, there's still time. You can go online to the Woodfin 5K website and find that information. We've also posted a link to that on the town's Facebook page. So, obviously we love everyone's support for that. Come on out. We were talking the logistics of it today and who we expect to see there. And every year we're involved with this. It's a great opportunity for the town, because that's our officers are out and we're interacting with our community, and it's one of the few events where we get to get out and see folks. And as this event continues to grow, it's not only folks from within the town, but it's getting a little growth in the rental community as well. So we're bringing in folks from other places, and it's a wonderful event. So again, on the 30th, Saturday morning, come join us. We still need volunteers, so if you want to volunteer, you can also do that through the runner sign up, and we'd love to see you all there. Trying to think if I have anything else for y'all. It's been, as I said, other than our staffing issues, which we're working on, we're also bringing on an intern to help us with some administrative duties. Have him in hopefully in the next couple weeks. We are kind of just cruising along. Any questions?
I gotta ask, how's our canine?
So our canine, I'll level with y'all, suffered a medical issue last week. So we have to get him to Greenville within the next couple of weeks for an MRI to see what's going on. Hopefully, it was nothing serious, but we're obviously, with a working dog like that, you can't just say, well, it was this and let it go. We have to check every possibility for what happened, and then kind of work backwards. So he's mostly healthy. He just had one episode where he wasn't doing good, and the vet recommended that he gets an MRI, and then we kind of go from there and see where he's at.
Thank you.
Right. Any other questions?
Yeah, thank you for adding or at least telling us the open investigations, and I'm waiting for it to have a place on here.
Oh,
too,
well,
so-
yeah, and that's the thing.
But thank you. I realize it's variable. Right.
Exactly, it is variable, and, one of our staff does this, actually, the lieutenant usually prepares this monthly report. However, he was out recently, and so one of the sergeants instead did the report. So
But
he
you
just
gave
went
it,
off the
so
old
good.
template, and this is what we have. And
That's
I'm
fine.
thankful for him. He did a great job with it,
Yes,
but
Thank
we're
you.
getting there.
yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, planning and zoning report.
You have the written reports for the permits and code enforcement in your packet. And I just wanted to give you a quick update on the comprehensive plan steering committee. Let's take my mask off for a second. They met last week and we discussed the survey responses. About 90% of those responses have come from ages 35 plus. So we're trying to reach that younger population and come up with ways to do that. And we still haven't heard much from the Latinx community. So we spent some time on talking about the community engagement plan, and some ways to, involve those populations. So, we're gonna reach back out to the elementary school and see how we can partner on reaching the youth population. Organize some focus groups and engage some church groups, especially for the Latinx population. We're also planning on going door to door, and we'd like to simplify the survey. It's pretty wordy right now and loses some people. We want to simplify that a little bit for those door-to-door conversations when we get out in the field and do that. The consultant shared the documentation of the plan progress, so they shared a draft character area descriptions and background information and introduction to the plan, so that's in the works, and we'll be revisiting that in the next meeting. And then a lot of that meeting was around a conversation about the town center and where that should be and what that should look like. And so possibilities that were brought up were Elk Mountain Road and Reynolds Village, focusing on the French Broad River and the parks. So that conversation's still ongoing. Some of the members would rather just leave Woodfin as it is and focus on the uniqueness that we have, and figure out a way for a town center to be created out of the assets that are already there. So it was just a general discussion that we'll be revisiting again at the next steering committee meeting that we plan to hold in about a month. Any questions?
Do we know about that plot of land that's on Riverside Drive? It's on the corner of Riverside Drive and something. And it was an old landfill that has brown spots in it or something like that?
Brownfields.
Brownfields. Have we decided that is a viable spot, or have we decided it's not, or can we
There's
get
a-
an update?
There's a developer that owns that tract of land, and they were looking at doing some housing development. I haven't heard from them in about a year, so I don't know where they are on that. A large portion of that site's not developable because of the brownfields.
I thought we owned it. Am I mistaken?
I think we used
Okay.
to.
Okay.
You're talking about Elk Mountain Road and Riverside Drive?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, no.
we don't own that. Oh, my mistake. Okay.
The developer in Raleigh owns that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to finance. Sherry?
The first thing I wanted to talk about tonight is an update on the homeowner grant program. And for the benefit of the new board members, last year it was a tax assessment year. A lot of the home values went up substantially from the previous assessment. And one of the measures the county put in place to try to lessen the impact on some of the lower income residents of the county was a homeowner grant program. It allowed $300 for residents that met the income criteria if they applied for this relief, and it could be used towards their tax bill or other utilities or related items. It wasn't paid directly to the taxpayer. Woodfin's board, at that time, we held our tax rate the same instead of going with a lower rollback rate that would have made the tax payment the same. So Woodfin, in addition to the $300, residents were eligible for an additional $200 from the town if they met the income criteria. We had 52 residents that applied and received those grants, and the town funded $10,400 in contributions to some of the lower income residents that owned and lived in homes in Woodfin. So I think that was a great thing. We authorized up to $15,000 to be used for that purpose. So for the first time, and we put it on the website and posted out through social media. And the county did an advertising campaign to get the word out to folks. And the county's Health and Human Resources Department administered the program for us. So we didn't vet the applications directly. It was through them and the criteria that was established for the grant. If the town, as part of the recommended budget, I'm going to recommend, and it'll be up to our manager to include in the budget, that we continue this program next year. I spoke with the county manager, and although there's been some discussion about the successfulness countywide, currently it's still included in the recommended budget for next year. So unless they discontinue the program, we'll participate again if this board authorizes us to do so. That's an update on that. The line item budget for the month ending March 31st is in your packet. In summary, the amended budget amounts to $6,621,000. In revenue, we've collected $5,883,253 to date. That's about 84%. We're still about $1 million ahead of where we were this time last year. So sales tax and property tax revenue is really responsible for the bulk of that increase. And it exemplifies the growth and the overall spending level of the residents of Woodfin. On the expenditure side, to date, we have paid, or through the end of March, we paid $4,326,888. We have another $601,000 encumbered for items that we are obligated to pay for. Total commitments, $4,928,528. That's about 74%, and with 3/4 of the year expended, we're just below our target of 75%. So, in a very sound place. In summary, if we project out the revenue and where we think we will be at the end of the year expenditure-wise, will be about $654,705 to the good, revenue over expenses. So that will go back into the fund balance. I have another slide. If you'll recall, at our budget workshop, we approved some changes in our ARPA fund accounting. We're basically moving some of the payroll and expenditure and FICA tax expenditures to the grant fund and moving those grant dollars back into the general fund to lessen the reporting requirements and provide the town with more flexibility in spending those dollars. So when we make all those journal entries and it's all said and done, I had an amended expenditure report in your packet on the dais tonight, which shows I've transferred those payroll expenses to the grant fund and taken that out of the general fund. And this is what your ARPA fund looks like now. We reversed out the original spending and put that in either the general fund or the capital projects fund, depending on what it was for, and added the salary and wage costs to date to the grant fund. So we've spent about $1.5 million so far this year of the 2.1 that we've been allotted through the ARPA funds. At the end of the year, with that taken into consideration, your revenue contribution to the town's fund balance, instead of $600,000, will then be a little over $2 million. We have a lot of plans and needs in the way of stormwater and some of the other initiatives that we discussed at our budget workshop, and we'll be making recommendations for some of that. But so we're right along plan with what the board approved for the ARPA funding at the last meeting. And in summary, the budget workshop, the next one will be May 3rd at 11:30. We'll be talking about the expansion budget, some of the items that relate to the ARPA funding and additional needs that we don't currently support in our operating budget today. We'll also go over the fee schedule and a few other items and start finalizing our requested budget for next fiscal year for your consideration at the regular meeting on May 17th. Any questions? All right, thank you all.
Okay, Greenway and Blueway.
Good evening, Commissioners. I am here, excited. This park is really coming along, especially since we have a grand opening 2 days from now. That slide you see in the picture, the slide and the monkey bars arrived today. I think they were ordered 6 months ago. So talk about some supply chain issues. And I really didn't push them on why they showed up 2 days before. I'm just saying thank you, get them installed. So things are coming together really well. They are working to get the signs up. So we'll have the entry sign, the sign for Jason Young on the ship. And so everything's coming together with that. There's been a really big push to get all the small details done. And the contractor that we have with Baker has outperformed. I mean, they're going above and beyond, not even asking them to do certain things. And they want to present a beautiful product. I could go over some of the things they're doing, but it just looks outstanding when you go out there.
I agree.
Really looking forward to the event we're gonna have. Working with Equinox on, we wanted to do some type of storyboard before and after. And I think it was Beth came up with the idea of, we've got pictures of before, and we're gonna have a cutout because you already have what's there. And so it's gonna be kind of like a window, a picture frame, to be able to view through it and see what's there currently. So it's kind of, we wanted to try to tell the story of where we were, where we are now, and then subsequently, where we are with Riverside, where we want to go. And so, looking forward to Thursday's activities. There'll be some small punch list items, but as we work through those details, we'll get it taken care of after the opening. May have to reseed, small stuff. So for the overall general project update, some of this is a little repetitious, but I want to have a little just summary slide. A lot of the focus has been on the ribbon cutting ceremony. There's been a really good team put together with that. One of the things we've also been doing with the Silver Line building, we're kind of placing that on hold based on some of the budget discussions, but we're kind of processing some of the survey results that we got back, trying to gauge the public's interest and what, if they had any say, could they use the building in a certain way. So we've got some of that information. We're kind of going through that and processing it. Continuing to work with the fundraising team. Definitely going to ramp up engagement with that. Silver Line, we've already talked about. Riverside Park, we just finished the 60% design. So the plan is to go for the PGA Parks and Greenway Advisory Committee next month and then bring it to you. We'll have Equinox here to kind of go over the changes and go over the 60% design. It's not going to look substantially different than what you saw, because the 30% locks in the plan view, all the parts and pieces stay. This gets you a little more detail on what the bathrooms are gonna look like, the finishes on the outside, what the pathway with the type of, you're gonna use exposed rock versus, it starts getting into that kind of level of detail. So pretty excited about that. The next phase of the project is really moving into like 60% design is really 100% design on the plan. So that's when we start moving into the realm of regulatory submission and approval. So we're getting set up with those agencies. Again, Equinox has a unique system in how they do it. And I'm really excited to see how that works out, because they bring all the agencies together and have the meeting with them so they can handle different, because there's some competing priorities on some of these items. And so you can bring them all together and hash it out, and it hopefully will help speed the process up. The S2O, the WAVE model, is to a point where it's been submitted over to the designers in Prague. And so there's like a 3-month process where they take that physical, or the model that is on the computer, and make it into a physical model in their flume. And so I'm looking, I think July is kind of the target month when that'll be constructed, and they'll go over there and run the finalized test. The reason we do that, and the reason that's, I guess, best practice to do that, is you can only get so finite with a computer model. You've got to put rocks in the water, because adjusting them, it kind of directs different flows. And so it is best practice, and I'm really trying to figure out a way to go to Prague and watch them do it. Greenways are moving along. We're still at that 25% design phase. We're stepping into the landowner coordination piece. So it's kind of a mixture between, we talk to them, try to get their, like the engineer or an architect, get the feedback from the owner to see what they would require, and try to present it or come back to a amenable situation. So when we go to them to acquire the easement or the land, they're kind of greasing the skids a little bit, I guess is the best way to say that. Again, no change to the construction schedule. is probably going to occur about the same timeline as the Riverside Park expansion, so look to have, I can see it starting in '23, and then depending on the weather, the hurricane season and how that plays into it, I could see it going from '23 into '24. So, and that's all I have. Any questions?
Thank you. Okay, administration and public works, Shannon.
So I'll be able to keep this pretty brief. Just want to report to the board, we did have 2 contracts approved in March, one for Anchor QEA, that was some additional services for some updated road mapping. I think they were measuring the width, giving us more data for our repaving project. And then also with BH granting landscaping for the exit 23 mowing and weeding for a total project cost of $28,000. This is the area by the interstate across from Reynolds Mountain that was, the town had entered into an agreement with the DOT a number of years ago to take over maintenance of that area. So every spring, we have to contract for those services. Some other updates, the public works stats were included in your packets for both the sanitation collection as well as the recycling. Our new sanitation trucks are on order and should be coming soon. I think one is coming at the beginning of next month and then the other hopefully 1st of June. So those should be arriving soon. The posting for the RFQ for the town attorney has closed. We have 4 applicants. Those were shared with the board. And we'll decide on our selection process moving forward. And then lastly, we did execute the lease on the Silver property that was next to Riverside Drive that the board had authorized us on at the last meeting. So we have already paid 1 month, and the property's already been put into some use. The French Broad River Academy asked if they could use it for overflow parking, and they reached out to the Silver family and learned that they had to come talk to us. So it's nice, it's helping us strengthen that relationship, so all is good there. And that concludes the reports. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for Shannon? Okay, thank you. Okay, do you have anything else to come before the board? Hearing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I can't believe we're getting out of here before 10 o'clock. We're adjourned.